Queen Zilara of the Velith Empire sat alone in her royal chamber. Around her, the air shimmered faintly with low-frequency sounds that only her kind could hear. The room looked empty to sighted beings, but to her it was full of music, movement, and whispers. She was blind. All Velith were blind. They saw through sound and emotion. Every vibration, every pulse, every heartbeat in the room painted a picture in her mind. For her, beauty wasn't light, it was harmony. And yet, as powerful as she was, Zilara often felt trapped inside a dark cage. She was the youngest ruler in Velith history, chosen after her mother's death. Her empire stretched across hundreds of worlds. Armies obeyed her voice, fleets answered her call. But for all her power, peace was slipping away. Her people were divided. Some wanted to conquer new territories. Others wanted to isolate themselves and stay pure. And the council, her so-called wise ones, wanted to keep her as a silent figurehead. Zilara was tired of politics, tired of endless arguments. She wanted something that would unite her empire again, something or someone that could change everything. The call from Earth, that something, came from a small blue planet called Earth. The humans had been making contact with nearby systems for years. They were new to galactic politics, but their courage and creativity were already becoming famous. They had no telepathy, no advanced sense like the Velith, but they were clever, emotional, and unpredictable. When Zilara first heard of Earth, she dismissed them. A primitive world, she said to her ministers. Their species is too young. They burn their own air and fight among themselves. But one name kept appearing in her reports: Ambassador Jonathan Hale, a human engineer, diplomat, and former fleet captain. He had built peace between warring colonies, designed ships that adapted mid-battle, and was known for saying, "Humans don't wait for miracles. We build them." One day, an encoded message came directly to her throne room. It wasn't through normal diplomatic channels. It was from Jonathan himself. "Queen Zilara," the message began, "your empire is on the edge of collapse. You need someone who can see what others cannot. You need a partner who doesn't fear the dark. I'm offering a proposal, an alliance sealed through marriage." Her court had exploded with laughter and anger. "A human?
Marry our queen?"
they shouted. "They have no power, no vision, it's a joke." But Zilara did not laugh. She felt something in that message, something real. The rhythm of his words vibrated differently. Not with arrogance, but honesty. She told her council calmly, "I will meet this human." The first meeting. The royal hall of Calvaean, her capital city, was vast and glowing with sound. Thousands of crystal pillars emitted soft tones that danced around the chamber, creating an atmosphere of calm majesty. Jonathan Hale entered, escorted by 2 guards. Unlike the other ambassadors who wore shimmering alien robes, Jonathan came in a simple navy uniform, neat but modest. He looked around, amazed by the musical beauty of the hall. He knew the queen could not see him, but he bowed slightly anyway. Zilara's attendants announced his arrival in the ancient Velith language. When she spoke, her voice was soft yet powerful. "Human Jonathan Hale, you stand before the queen of the Velith Empire. Speak your reason for coming." Jonathan stepped forward. "I come not to beg or trade, your majesty. I come to unite." The entire hall went silent. "Unite?" she asked, her head tilting slightly. "Yes," he replied. "Your empire is strong but divided. Humanity is small but hungry to grow. Together we can bring balance. And I believe that starts with trust, symbolized through marriage." A ripple of outrage went through the nobles. Some hissed. Others shouted. But Zilara lifted her hand, silencing them. "You asked to marry me, a queen of 1,000 worlds? I asked to stand beside you, not above or below," he said. "We are both blind in different ways. Perhaps together we can see." For the first time in many cycles, Zilara smiled, a faint, curious smile. Doubts and whispers. That night, her private advisors tried to convince her to reject the proposal. "He is not like us, Majesty," said Lord Voren, her chief counselor. "He is sighted but blind in mind. Humans are unstable, unpredictable." "And yet," she replied, "they are the only ones who still reach for the stars with hope." Voren frowned. "He will make you look weak. The people will never accept a sighted consort." "Then let them see strength in unity," she said. But even as she defended the idea, doubt lingered inside her. Why was she interested in this strange human? Maybe it was his voice. His tone was steady, not afraid of her, not pitying her blindness. He spoke to her as if she were an equal, not a legend or a symbol. No one had done that in years. She spent that night walking through the echo gardens where crystal trees sang with wind chimes of pure sound. She touched the air, trying to sense her future. In the distance, she heard Jonathan's heartbeat, fast, nervous, but true. Somehow she could feel it even through the palace walls. That alone was impossible. "Who are you, human?" she whispered. "And why can I feel you?" The wedding of two worlds. Weeks later, after long debate, the marriage was approved. The ceremony took place on the sky platform of Valen, where sound and light merged above the clouds. Thousands of beings attended, some curious, some furious. Jonathan stood proudly beside her. He wore ceremonial armor crafted from both human steel and Valeth crystal. Zellara wore a gown woven from resonant fibers that sang softly as she moved. The high priest began the ancient joining ritual. Two hearts would be linked not by blood but by frequency. The bond allowed each to feel the emotions of the other. Zellara hesitated for a moment. "Once this link is complete, you will feel everything I feel," she warned. Jonathan smiled slightly. "Then I'll know the truth of a queen's heart." The priest finished the chant. A wave of energy passed through them both. For an instant, Zellara gasped. She could feel him. His emotions burned bright and clear. Courage, warmth, honesty. There was no deception, no arrogance. Only a deep, steady light. Around them, the audience fell silent. Even those who hated humans could feel the resonance. Their bond was real. The queen's discovery that night after the ceremony, Zellara returned to her private chamber. She removed her crown, an ancient device that amplified her senses, and sat in quiet thought. Her world was still dark as always. But now there was something new. A faint warmth in the dark, a pulse of light she couldn't explain. Then she heard footsteps. Jonathan entered quietly. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly. "You don't have to bow," she said softly. "Maybe not," he said, "but I want to." There was a pause. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then Zellara said, "Tell me, Jonathan, what do you see when you look at me?" He hesitated, then smiled. "I see a woman who rules galaxies, yet still wonders what the stars look like. I see strength that doesn't need sight." She tilted her head. "And you are not afraid of me." "Afraid?" "No. Amazed, maybe." For the first time, she reached out and touched his hand. His skin was warm, human, full of life. Through their new bond, she could feel his emotions. Gentle awe, quiet respect, and something else she couldn't define. It wasn't pity. It was admiration. A strange silence filled the room. Her heartbeat matched his rhythm. For the first time in her life, the darkness around her didn't feel empty. It felt alive. She whispered to herself, "How can someone so bright come from a world so dark?" Jonathan didn't answer. He simply smiled, and she could feel that smile in her mind. The beginning of change that night. The queen of the Valeth Empire could not sleep. For years, her empire had been falling apart, but as she lay there, sensing the heartbeat of the human beside her, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, this strange human could help her see what she had missed all her life. Not with eyes, but with heart. The next morning, after the royal wedding, the twin suns of Zerathia rose high above the palace city. Their light passed through layers of crystal clouds, scattering into waves of color. The Valeth people couldn't see those colors, but Jonathan could. He stood on the balcony of the queen's private quarters, watching the endless horizon. It was the most beautiful sunrise he had ever seen. Behind him, the sound of soft chimes filled the air. That was how the palace spoke. Instead of servants calling out, musical tones guided and informed. A low hum meant someone was approaching. Jonathan turned around just in time to see Queen Zellara entering. She was dressed in a flowing silver robe that resonated with soft vibrations. Even though she couldn't see him, she moved with perfect grace, guided by the rhythm of the air. "You are awake early," she said. "Old habit," Jonathan replied. "Humans start their day with light." "I guess I still do." The queen tilted her head slightly, sensing his emotion. "Light," she repeated. "I cannot imagine it. To us, it is a myth. We know it exists, but we will never see it." Jonathan looked at her gently. "Maybe one day I'll show it to you in another way." She smiled faintly. "You humans always say impossible things as if they are promises." The court of doubt later that morning, the Grand Council gathered in the Hall of Resonance. It was a massive dome filled with shimmering sound pillars. The meeting was meant to welcome Jonathan as the new royal consort. But from the beginning, the air was tense. High Lord Voran, Zalara's chief advisor, stepped forward. His voice carried sharp, echoing tones that almost stabbed the air. "Majesty, we must speak openly," he said. "Your choice has divided the empire. Entire colonies question your decision. A human, an outsider, cannot be trusted." Jonathan stood beside the queen, silent but firm. "You speak of trust," Zalara said, "yet none of you trusted me when I said we needed unity. Humanity may be young, but they still dream. When was the last time any of you dreamed?" The hall fell quiet. The queen's words were calm but full of weight. Voran frowned. "Majesty, forgive me, but this human does not understand our ways. He cannot feel as we do. He cannot lead," Jonathan finally spoke. His voice was steady. "You're right. I don't feel the way you do. I don't hear emotion like sound. But maybe that's a good thing." "I can see what you can't," the nobles murmured angrily. One shouted, "He mocks us." Another added, "He should bow when speaking to the council." Jonathan turned to them calmly. "Where I come from, respect is not shown by kneeling. It's shown by standing beside someone, not beneath them." Zalara couldn't help but smile slightly at his courage. No one ever spoke that way to her council. Voran glared. "Humans have pride but no wisdom. You think bravery replaces discipline?" Jonathan replied, "No, I think fear replaces progress. And I don't fear you." A heavy silence followed. The queen's advisors were furious, but deep inside Zalara felt something rare: admiration. A queen's test later, in her private chamber, Zalara spoke to Jonathan alone. "You challenged my counsel. Few have dared to do that." Jonathan smiled faintly. "I didn't come here to be silent, Your Majesty. I came to help you fix what's broken." She tilted her head. "And what do you think is broken?" "Your empire," he said honestly. "It's full of strength but no connection. Everyone obeys but no one believes. You have harmony without purpose." That statement hit her deeply. "And what would you do, human? Unite us with words?" "No," Jonathan said. "With proof." She leaned closer. "Proof? Give me a challenge. Something your people say is impossible. Let me solve it my way." The queen considered it. It was bold, perhaps too bold, but something inside her wanted to see what this human could really do. Finally, she said, "Very well. You will have your test, the impossible machine." The next day, Jonathan was taken to the core laboratory, a massive circular hall beneath the palace. In the center floated a glowing sphere, the stellar resonance engine, a half-living machine that powered their entire capital. For years, it had been unstable. Even Valeth scientists couldn't repair it. Every attempt caused small energy storms across the city. Zalara stood on the balcony above, her voice echoing through the hall. "This engine sings wrong. Its balance is broken. If it collapses, the capital will fall. Fix it if you can." Jonathan nodded. "No pressure then." He examined the glowing core carefully. It pulsed like a heartbeat but irregularly, too fast then too slow. Around it floated dozens of resonant crystals, all slightly out of sync. The Violet engineers watched nervously. "He doesn't even have the senses to read frequency," one whispered. But Jonathan had something else: intuition. He placed small human-made sensors near the core and pulled up a holographic map of the resonance field. To the Valeth it looked like nonsense, colors and graphs. But to him it was clear as day. "You're all treating it like a perfect song," he said. "But it's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to breathe." He adjusted the harmonic nodes one by one, deliberately adding small variations instead of perfect symmetry. To the Valeth it looked chaotic. To Jonathan it was balance through difference. Then, he did something that shocked everyone. He tapped the engine lightly with a metal rod. The sound rang through the hall like a bell. The engine flared, then slowly stabilized. The chaotic hum turned into a deep, steady rhythm, strong, alive, and perfectly balanced. Silence filled the room. Then one of the scientists gasped. "It's stable. Completely stable." The Queen's voice came through the communicator. "How did you do that?" Jonathan smiled. "You were trying to make it sing the same note. I just reminded it that harmony needs difference." Zalara felt a rush of emotion she didn't expect. Pride. the council's anger, but not everyone was pleased. That evening, Voren and the council met secretly. Their faces glowed in the dim biolight. "He makes us look like fools," Voren hissed. "A human repairing what our best minds could not." Another noble said, "The people are starting to cheer for him. Some even call him the sighted healer. If this continues, his influence will spread." Voren clenched his fists. "Then we must end it, quietly, before the queen loses herself to his tricks." They began plotting a way to discredit Jonathan, or worse, the humans' lesson later that night. Jonathan and Zalara met again in the quiet of the Echo Gardens. The crystal leaves glowed faintly around them. "You fixed the engine," she said softly. "You did what no one else could." "I just listened differently," Jonathan replied. "Sometimes seeing too much makes people blind." Zalara tilted her head. "You think I am blind in more than one way?" "I think we all are," he said. "Humans, Valeth, it doesn't matter. We stop learning when we think we already know everything." She thought about that for a long time. For years, she had believed her people were the most advanced race in the galaxy, but maybe advancement without curiosity was just another kind of blindness. Then she asked, "Why did you not bow to my counsel?" Jonathan smiled. "Because in my world, a partnership isn't one person kneeling. It's two people walking together." She was silent for a while, trying to understand that feeling in his words. To her, submission meant respect. To him, equality meant respect. It was a strange concept, but beautiful. "You are not like the others I have known," she admitted. "Neither are you," he said. "You lead not through fear, but through faith." A new connection. Over the next few weeks, Jonathan continued to study Valeth technology. He found ways to merge human logic with their emotional science. He built translator bands that allowed humans to feel small waves of emotion, a tiny taste of how Valeth communication worked. The scientists were shocked. Some feared it. Others called it genius. Zalara watched all of it with growing fascination. Through their emotional bond, she could sense Jonathan's thoughts. His calm determination, his endless curiosity, his quiet love for creation. For the first time, she didn't feel alone in the dark. Every night when the palace grew silent, she found herself listening for the rhythm of his heart. It was steady, bright, and alive, like a star she could finally feel. The seeds of jealousy, but jealousy was growing in the shadows. Some nobles whispered that the queen had fallen under a human spell. Others claimed Jonathan had stolen their technology. Reports began spreading across colonies. "The queen has chosen a primitive over her own kind." Voren fueled those rumors, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Zalara sensed unease but couldn't find the source. Her trust in Jonathan only deepened while her trust in her counsel began to fade. One night she said quietly, "Jonathan, my people fear what they don't understand." He nodded. "That's the same everywhere. Fear builds walls. Curiosity builds bridges." She reached out her hand again, feeling his warmth through the bond. "You build bridges even when others throw stones." Jonathan smiled softly. "That's the human way." The queen's realization as the sun set that night, Zalara stood at her window, deep in thought. Her people measured strength and control. Jonathan measured it in connection. He didn't try to dominate, yet his presence changed everything. For the first time in her reign, Zalara wondered if her blindness was never her curse, but her protection. Because now, through this human, she was beginning to see differently. She whispered into the silent air, "He does not bow, yet I feel stronger beside him." The palace of Zerathia glowed in the soft hum of night. The air shimmered with faint music as the city below slept. For the first time since the wedding, the palace felt peaceful. But inside Queen Zalara's heart, there was no peace. She could sense something changing inside her, something she couldn't explain. Ever since she had bonded with Jonathan, her emotions felt stronger. Sounds had more meaning. The world seemed richer, more alive. She stood near the tall echo window of her private chamber. The window wasn't made for sight but for sound. It vibrated faintly, letting her hear the heartbeat of the city. Jonathan entered quietly. His footsteps echoed gently, steady and calm. "You haven't slept," he said softly. "A queen doesn't sleep easily," she replied with a faint smile. "Too many hearts depend on mine." Jonathan stepped closer, careful not to disturb the balance of tones in the room. "You sound worried," he said. My people whisper behind closed doors, she admitted. They say I've been blinded by human tricks, that I've forgotten who I am. Jonathan's expression grew serious. Do you believe them? No, she said. But I fear they might believe themselves. She turned toward him. Tell me something, Jonathan. What is it like to truly see? He hesitated. The question felt heavy. Seeing, he began, isn't just with eyes. It's light, color, distance, movement. But it's also emotion. When I look at something beautiful, I feel it here. He touched his chest. For us, light is a kind of truth. But it can lie, too. Eyes can be fooled. The heart rarely is. Zellara listened carefully. Then perhaps we are not so different, she said quietly. My kind sees through the heart alone. Jonathan smiled. Maybe that's why we understand each other. The Chamber of Silence. Few days later, Zellara made a strange request. She asked Jonathan to meet her in the Chamber of Silence, a secret place few had ever entered. The chamber was said to be where ancient Velith rulers tested trust. Inside, no sound existed, no vibration, no echo. For her species, it was terrifying. Without sound, they were completely blind. Jonathan followed her through the long corridors. When the great doors opened, he felt an odd stillness, like the air itself refused to move. This place feels empty, he whispered. It is, she replied. And that is why I brought you here. I want to understand something. Zellara stepped into the center of the chamber. Her movements were careful, uncertain. Without her crowned sensors, she could not see anything. She was completely blind now, even to sound and emotion. I have never entered this room without a guide, she said softly. Not even my mother dared. Then why now? Jonathan asked. Because I trust you, she answered. Her voice trembled slightly. I wish to know what you see when there is nothing. Jonathan took a deep breath. He looked around the vast dark space. It was featureless, no light, no color, only the faint sound of their breathing. I see emptiness, he said, but also potential, like a blank canvas before the first stroke. He reached into his small pack and pulled out a thin device. It was a portable light field generator, one he had built himself. What is that? Zellara asked, hearing the faint click of metal. Something I made, he replied. You said you could never see light. Maybe you can't, but you can feel it. He activated the device. Soft golden light filled the chamber. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It shimmered gently, forming tiny dots in the air, each representing a star. The entire room became a miniature galaxy slowly rotating around them. Zellara gasped. Though she couldn't see, her skin and mind felt the change. The air vibrated in a new rhythm, warm, pure, alive. Jonathan stepped closer and took her hands. Feel this, he said gently, guiding her palms through the light field. As her fingers moved, small waves of sound touched her senses. Each star made a soft tone, creating a melody that filled the silence. For the first time in her life, Zellara felt the stars. The Queen's first vision. Her mind flooded with sensations she had never known. Each pulse of light was like a heartbeat. Each tone painted an image inside her thoughts. She saw, not with eyes, but through feeling. She saw the universe in a way no Velith ever had. Jonathan, she whispered. What is this? What am I feeling? This is how we humans look at the stars, he said softly. Not with fear, but with wonder. Tears of energy rippled across her skin, glowing faintly. Her people didn't have liquid tears. Their emotions showed as waves of light beneath their skin. It's beautiful, she said. I never knew the universe could sing like this. Jonathan smiled. You always said your people see through emotion. Light is just another kind of emotion, one that moves faster than sound. She stood there, silent, overwhelmed. Then she turned her face toward him. Do humans always see like this? Sometimes, he said. But we forget. We stop noticing the beauty after a while. Maybe that's why we needed to find others to remind us. Her heart fluttered with something unfamiliar. Through their bond, she could feel his emotions, calm, admiration, respect, and something deeper she couldn't name. Your emotions, they burn so bright, she said softly. It feels like standing too close to a sun. Then step closer, Jonathan whispered. It won't burn. It'll warm you. She did. An unspoken connection. For a long while they stood together, surrounded by glowing stars that pulsed in harmony with their hearts. The silence of the chamber was no longer empty. It was alive with feeling. Solara lifted her head. All my life I thought light was cold, distant, but now I understand. It's alive, just like sound. Jonathan nodded. Exactly. Maybe that's why humans have always chased it. She turned her hands slowly in the air, tracing the outlines of the stars. Every motion produced a new note, a new vibration. You don't use logic to build things, she said suddenly. You use emotion. You create with feeling. That's what makes humans dangerous, Jonathan admitted. We mix reason and passion. Sometimes it saves us. Sometimes it destroys us, Solara smiled faintly. Perhaps your chaos is what we were missing. We made everything perfect. Too perfect. No wonder it started breaking. Jonathan looked at her for a long moment. You don't realize how incredible you are, he said softly. You command galaxies, yet still want to learn. Her head tilted. And you, human, challenge gods without fear. Their emotional bond deepened. Solara could feel his heartbeat inside her mind. For the first time, the two species, one that could not see, and one that could, shared a single sense of unity. The revelation as the galaxy projection faded slowly. Solara kept her hands raised in the air as if holding the stars themselves. You showed me light, she said quietly. But what truly shocks me is not the light itself. Then what? Jonathan asked. She turned toward him, her skin glowing faintly with emotion. It's you, she said. You humans see beauty not for power but for meaning. You do not need to conquer the stars, you love them. That is why you survive. Jonathan looked down, humbled. Maybe that's our only real strength. It is more than strength, she said. It is creation. You bring life to everything you touch. There was silence between them, deep and powerful. Then she added softly, When I first heard your message, I thought you were arrogant. But now I know you are offering something greater than peace. You were offering perspective, Jonathan smiled. I just wanted to help you see the universe the way I do. You did? She whispered. And in doing so, you made me see myself. The Queen's transformation. After that night, something inside Solara changed forever. Her perception grew stronger, sharper. When she walked through the palace the next morning, the sounds felt brighter. Even emotions had color in her mind now. Her advisors noticed the difference. They whispered about it in confusion. Her tone has changed, one said. Her senses are stronger. The human must have done something, said another. But Solara ignored them. She felt alive. For the first time in years, she didn't just sense the world. She felt it. Jonathan stood quietly at her side during the morning assembly. As usual, he did not bow. But when she reached out and rested a hand on his shoulder, the hall fell silent. The gesture meant something powerful. To the Vaelith, it was a declaration of unity. To her, it was trust. From this day, she said, her voice ringing through the hall, the Vaelith will not walk in silence. We will seek harmony with those who see light. For light and sound are not enemies. They are one. The nobles were shocked. Some looked furious, but others, especially the younger ones, bowed deeply. For the first time in generations, the Vaelith felt inspired. A quiet moment that evening. As the palace quieted down, Solara sat beside Jonathan on the balcony. The stars stretched endlessly above them. You gave me something my people could not, she said softly. What's that? He asked. You gave me light. Not through my eyes, but through my heart, Jonathan smiled. And you gave me something too, Solara. What? A reason to believe that even in darkness there's beauty waiting to be found. They sat together in silence. The bond between them pulsed gently, warm and steady. Above them the stars twinkled, unseen by her but deeply felt. The Queen who could not see now understood something far greater. That night she had not only discovered light, she had discovered humanity. The days after the Queen's revelation were bright with hope, but darkness was never far from the Vaelith Empire. While Queen Solara and Jonathan worked quietly to unite their people, whispers of doubt and jealousy grew louder. High Lord Vorin and a group of conservative nobles were plotting. They feared the human. They feared the change he brought. The Queen has been seduced by a human, Vorin hissed to the council. He has no loyalty to our people, another noble added. If we do not act soon, he will destroy the traditions of our empire, said a third. The council agreed. Jonathan must be discredited, removed or worse. But Solara, strengthened by her bond with Jonathan, could feel the tension before it erupted. She called him to her side. Jonathan, she said softly, My people fear what they do not understand. Some will try to stop us. Then we will show them, he replied, not with words. With proof, Zilara nodded. She trusted him. The first strike 1 week later, alarms rang across the capital. The signal came from the outer orbital platforms where military fleets docked and patrolled. Intruders! Shouted a Valeth officer. Unknown ships approaching. Jonathan and Zilara rushed to the observation deck. Hundreds of sleek alien warships, black and sharp, cut through the void. Their markings were Valeth, but twisted, corrupted. They've turned against us, Jonathan said. This is not an outside attack. It's internal. Voron's rebellion had begun. The Queen's fleet scrambled. Zilara could feel fear and hesitation from some of her commanders, but Jonathan remained calm. He moved among the officers, directing them with confidence. Shift formation, not in lines. Use adaptive rotation. Let them chase empty gaps, he instructed. The Valeth officers hesitated. Human strategy was unpredictable, but Jonathan's calm, precise commands worked. The rebels found themselves outmaneuvered before they could strike. Zilara felt the battle through her bond with Jonathan. His courage and focus pulsed through her mind, steadying her own nerves. Hold the line, she commanded telepathically. Do not falter. Follow the rhythm of his mind. Her people were shocked. The Queen was leading with a human, not against him. Jonathan's tactics as the battle escalated. Jonathan revealed something the Valeth had never seen before. He had built adaptive armor and drone units for the fleet. They could change shape mid-flight, dodge enemy fire, and even project false signals to confuse the rebels. These humans call it improvisation, Jonathan said, pointing to a small ship flipping upside down to evade laser strikes. It is what they do when they face the impossible. Zilara could feel the excitement and pride in him. He moved as a leader, calm and commanding, without arrogance. The Valeth rebels became frustrated. Their attacks, perfectly planned in secret, failed against unexpected human ingenuity. Ships that were supposed to destroy the capital instead collided with each other. Impossible, one general shouted. They move like ghosts. Jonathan chuckled softly. They are just predictable, he said. And I am not. The Queen in the battle, Zilara herself, took command in the center of the capital fleet. Using her telepathic link with Jonathan, she felt every movement, every strategy. Push forward. She telepathically directed one wing. Circle around the fleet to their left. Use the asteroid belts as cover. Her bond with Jonathan amplified her power. For the first time, her people witnessed a Queen and human working as one. Where fear had dominated before, now there was confidence. Where doubt had filled hearts, now there was hope. The enemy fleet began to falter. Ships broke formation. Their pilots, sensing the human strategy through the Queen's orders, panicked, a dangerous plot. But the battle was only part of the conspiracy. Voron had anticipated that the Queen might survive initial attacks. His ultimate plan involved assassination. While the fleets clashed, he sent an elite strike team to the Queen's chamber. Their orders were simple. Kill Jonathan and capture Zilara. Jonathan felt the danger first. His bond with Zilara warned him. He didn't hesitate. We have company, he whispered into her mind. Zilara nodded. Her instincts kicked in. Together they moved to the escape chamber, a hidden passage beneath the palace. Jonathan had upgraded the security systems himself, locks that responded to both human and Valeth patterns. This way, he said. Follow me exactly. They moved swiftly through the corridors. Jonathan led the way, guiding her by subtle touches and precise instructions. The assassins entered the chamber moments later, but the doors had already sealed. They won't reach us, Jonathan said. Not yet. Turning the tide, meanwhile, the Queen's loyal fleets began to overwhelm the rebels in space. Jonathan coordinated movements between human-inspired adaptive drones and Valeth ships. Split their formation, he instructed. Drive the front into the flank. Use their weight against them. Zilara could feel his mind, a steady pulse of calm logic and daring courage. She amplified it through her own power, letting her fleet act as one entity. The rebels' attack collapsed within hours. Many ships surrendered, others fled. The battle is ours, Zilara said. Not just ours, Jonathan replied. The Queen and humanity together. Aftermath of the attack, the capital was safe, but the empire had been shaken. Rumors of rebellion spread. Colonies that had been quiet now began asking, if a human can command the Queen, what does that mean for us? Zilara held a council. She spoke openly to her people, something she rarely did. Our empire faced betrayal. We faced fear, but we survived because we trusted in each other. Humans veileth together. We are stronger than either alone. The speech stirred emotion across the empire. For the first time in generations, humans and Veileth felt a shared purpose. Even some of the nobles who had doubted Jonathan began to respect him. Though Vorin remained bitter, others started following the new leadership, inspired by the courage and ingenuity he and Zalara had shown. A quiet conversation that evening. Zalara and Jonathan walked through the palace gardens. The night air hummed softly with music, reflecting their calm after the storm. "You were brilliant today," Zalara said. "You didn't just fight, they saw strategy, not chaos." "I just did what humans do," Jonathan replied. "Adapt, react, trust in others." Zalara tilted her head. "Your people. Survive where others fail because you see what others ignore." Jonathan smiled. "And your people. Survive because you inspire what is best in others. We make a good team, don't we?" "We do," Zalara admitted. "Together we are stronger than any of us alone." They stopped near a fountain, its water vibrating with soft tones. She reached out and touched his hand. "You've changed me," she whispered. "I am no longer just a queen of the blind. I feel alive." Jonathan's smile widened. "And you've changed me too. I came here to help, but you taught me to see in ways I never imagined. The seeds of future struggles. Yet even in victory, danger lingered." Vorin's rebellion had been crushed, but only partially. He had fled with loyalists, hiding in distant colonies, plotting his return. "The Empire is safe for now," Zalara said, her voice steady. "But we must remain vigilant," Jonathan nodded. "And we will face it together. Humans and Veileth, bonded not just by alliance but by trust." Zalara smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of his presence in her mind. For the first time in her life, she understood that strength was not measured in fleets or power. It was measured in trust, courage, and connection. "The night is long," she said, "but I no longer fear the dark. Not with you by my side." Jonathan took her hand in his. "Then let's show them what the light of humanity and the heart of a queen can do." The stars above the palace seemed to pulse softly, as if acknowledging the bond between them. For the first time, the Veileth Empire had a future not dominated by fear, but by hope. The weeks after Vorin's failed rebellion passed in tense quiet. The Veileth Empire, though shaken, was slowly regaining order. Colonies sent messages of support, some seeking guidance from the queen and her human consort. Yet even as stability returned, Zalara felt that her journey was far from complete. The bond with Jonathan had opened new pathways of perception within her. She no longer simply heard or felt. She began to experience the world in a way that transcended her blindness. And the galaxy was about to show her something she could never have imagined. The signal it began with a pulse, a faint rhythmic vibration in the edge of known space. The Veileth Council detected it, but no one could interpret its meaning. Jonathan, however, was intrigued. "This isn't random," he said as he examined the readings. "It's a message." Zalara's mind thrummed with curiosity. "From who?" she asked. "I don't know yet," Jonathan admitted. "But whoever sent it, they are very powerful. And they know about us." The pulse repeated itself, growing in intensity. The queen realized that this was more than a message. It was a test and possibly a warning. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. "We may have to act quickly." Jonathan's calm focus steadied her. Where others felt fear, he saw strategy. And for the first time, Zalara felt ready. The approach. The signal led them to a remote star system. There, orbiting a dying sun, floated an enormous alien construct. Its surface was black and polished, yet it radiated a strange energy that both the human and the Veileth could sense. "It's alive," Zalara whispered. The vibrations of the construct felt like a heartbeat, slow but steady. Jonathan examined the readings. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "It's a machine, but it thinks, maybe even feels." The fleet approached cautiously. Scouts reported that the structure projected a field that interfered with conventional sensors. Jonathan suggested manual navigation, relying on the Veileth Queen's heightened senses. "Then I will guide us," Zalara said. She focused, opening herself fully to the vibrations, the emotions, the pulse of the alien machine. For the first time, she realized her blindness allowed her to sense what the human mind could not, an intuition born of harmony rather than sight. She led the fleet into orbit with pinpoint precision, avoiding hidden traps the construct had set. The revelation, once in orbit, Jonathan initiated a communication attempt. Using a combination of Valeth resonance and human logic patterns, he sent pulses into the construct's field. Slowly, a holographic figure appeared. Its form was alien, humanoid, but composed of light and sound waves. It spoke not in words but in vibrations that Zilara could feel directly. "Queen Zilara," the voice hummed. "You have united sight and perception, human and Valeth. That is why you were chosen." Zilara turned to Jonathan. "Chosen? By whom?" The construct pulsed. "By the Keepers. We observe civilizations that reach beyond fear. You and the human have done so together. Your bond demonstrates harmony between difference, a union rare in the galaxy." Jonathan's eyes widened. "We're part of something bigger?" Zilara could feel the truth in the vibrations. "Yes," she said softly. "We were meant to show the galaxy a new path." The test of unity, the construct's voice continued. "To prove your union is true, you must face the mirror of worlds. It will show you yourself and what you may become." Jonathan stepped closer to Zilara. "We face it together," he said. The mirror of worlds activated. A sphere of pure energy enveloped them. Images flashed inside Zilara's mind, visions of possible futures. She saw the Empire thriving, uniting with other species. She saw colonies rebelling, crushed by fear. She saw herself alone, ruling but blind to the heart of her people. And then she saw Jonathan, not just as a human, but as the catalyst for change. His courage, his vision, his empathy had transformed her empire, her life, and her very perception. "I see," she whispered. "I see what I could not before." The mirror pulsed once more and then dissipated. The construct's message came through. "Your bond is true. You are ready to lead not just an empire, but a new vision for the galaxy." The return back on Zerathia, Zilara addressed her people. Her voice carried across the capital, resonating not just in sound but in emotion. "People of the Valeth Empire, we have seen what fear can bring, and what unity can achieve. Together, human and Valeth, we will not only survive but thrive. We will bring harmony where there was chaos, light where there was darkness." The speech inspired awe. Colonies pledged loyalty, inspired by her courage and Jonathan's ingenuity. Even the nobles who had doubted them felt a spark of hope. Boren, however, remained defiant in exile. But even he could not deny that the Queen's bond with the human had changed everything. The shock of discovery. That night, alone in her chamber with Jonathan, Zilara reflected on what she had learned. "I always believed my blindness was my weakness," she admitted. "But it made me understand things no one else could," Jonathan said. "And together we see more than any one species ever could." She reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of life, courage, and love. "Tonight I discovered something more than light, more than sound. I discovered humanity, and what it can do when joined with compassion and courage." Jonathan smiled. "And I discovered that even the most powerful queen can learn, change, and grow. That's what makes you human in spirit, even if Valeth in form." Zilara laughed softly. "Perhaps that is why we were meant to be together. Not just to survive, but to lead." A new era in the days that followed, Zilara and Jonathan traveled together across the Empire. They rebuilt trust in distant colonies, resolved conflicts that had lasted generations, and inspired cooperation between humans and Valeth. The Empire, once rigid and divided, began to flourish. New technology blended human creativity with Valeth precision. Art and science thrived, and in every colony, tales spread of the blind queen and the human who would not bow. Zilara had become more than a ruler. She was a symbol, not of power alone, but of understanding, courage, and unity. The final bond one evening on the balcony of the royal palace, the twin suns set. Jonathan and Zilara watched together, hand in hand. "Do you see them?" she asked. "I feel them," he replied. They stood in silence, their bond stronger than ever. In the darkness, Zilara no longer felt blind. She had discovered light, courage, love, and humanity itself. "Tonight," she whispered, "I finally see. And it is more beautiful than I ever imagined." Jonathan kissed her hand gently. "And this is only the beginning. Together we will show the galaxy what seeing truly means." Above them the stars twinkled, unseen by Zilara but felt deeply. And for the first time she understood. To truly see is to understand, to feel, and to unite. The blind queen had finally discovered the greatest truth of all. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a light, and she had it by her side. The empire would never be the same, and neither would she.